Okay, so your next act is a very funny woman. She hails out of Boston. I've performed with her a whole bunch of times. You're going to love her. Let's welcome Amma Marfo. Woo! Let me spotlight you.
Okay.
There you go.
There I am. Big. Everybody can see me. Fantastic. Before I start, I need to commiserate with Hart about middle-agedness, like the whole way through. I've had a benign positional vertigo since I was 16 years old. So like sometimes you're just around and you just get dizzy. And if this happens to you, don't Google it. It's horrifying, but positional vertigo is really common for people in their 70s and 80s. So it's exciting to have a disease when you're 16 that wasn't covered on Degrassi, but was covered on the West Wing. Like, it's a weird place to be. Anyway, I'm here. I'm exhausted to be here. It's a problem. I don't sleep well when I'm like stressed or anxious. And we've been in a pandemic for almost 2 years. So I've been awake the whole time. And normally when I do this, anytime I talk about this, people are like, oh, well, have you tried, before you fire up your chat fingers, put your hands down. I've tried everything. Everyone has told me all of the things. Tried them all, still awake. I've tried meditation because I do yoga. A lot of people have said, you should try meditation. Now, listen, while I do identify as a straight woman, that is an overstatement of the issue. Men are being tolerated at best. So this is important to say because like 70% of meditation tracks are voiced by men. And there are a couple women here. Women, is it helpful when men tell you to calm down?
No.
That on a loop for an hour? Sorry, Kevin, Christian, Leif, and that's the only names they have. None of you are up for the task. So that wasn't going to work. Screen time. Apparently, I'm getting too much of it. Who isn't? I'm supposed to have less, which again, great idea. But then Disney Plus went and put the entirety of the 1997 One Saturday Morning cartoon Pepper Ann on their service. So I can't go to sleep. I have things to do. So, and it's wild. Like, I've talked to a number of professionals about this. It has stymied my therapist. My doctors were confused. I went to the dentist and like opened my mouth and she was just like, oh, you never want to hear that when you go to the dentist. Just, oh, how are you sleeping? And I was like, I'm not. Thank you for noticing. So went to the doctor. Finally, they figured out like you should probably try an anti-anxiety medication, which I suspected because the week before I went, I had actually traveled overseas in like that brief window where the pandemic was quiet enough that you could go do things. I was in Iceland, spent like 60% of my time there in hot springs, most relaxed I've ever been. Come back to the United States. And I'm like, I want to feel that relaxed. And they're like, best we can do is Lexapro. So here we are. And I mean, it's working. Thankfully, it's working and things are starting to get better. And I'm glad that that's the route we decided to take because my previous antidepressant was out of stock, which is to say I had run out of episodes of the most recent season of Great British Baking Show. And I needed to find something else. So through what I'm going to call gently legal processes, I found episodes from other countries. There are a lot of Canadians here. So I'm from Canada, live in the US, probably because the healthcare was too affordable where I lived. So anyway, I started with the Great Canadian Bake Off. Incredible. So fantastic. Just everyone is so lovely and the judging is so polite. It is unhelpful. And whoever ends up winning Star Baker never believes that they earned it. They're just like, me? Really? This week with what I made? I could listen to that on a loop for 20 minutes. It would be amazing. Someone do that as a meditation track, then we'd be getting somewhere. So naturally, I ran out of a nice thing, blew through it too quickly, that was all gone. So then I realized that I could watch the episodes from African countries. There are two editions that are African, Kenya and South Africa. Now, coming from African people, both my parents are from there, still have family there, they live there. It was surprising to me that there were African versions of it. I mean, there's not really a baking tradition in Africa the way there is in other countries. Not to mention, for those of us who know history, the last time the British went to Africa and were like, hey, there's this thing that we're doing. We think you should participate. Like, it didn't go great. Like, they got a tea tradition, but I would argue they lost a great deal more. Do you get what I'm saying? So, nevertheless, there are African versions. So I watched it, and they felt perfect. Like, exactly what I needed from going home. Like, signature bake takes 5 hours. Everyone is behaving as though they only had 30 minutes, which is absolutely how it was in my house. Like, that's every year trying to leave for the neighbor's house at Thanksgiving. We had to be there at 1:30, and my dad's like, we should get ready at 1:25. Like, that's what that was. And then, like, when they finally do come out and they do the judging, then no one hears the criticism. Like, that's every African aunt that I have. Like, I remember talking to my aunt about how she didn't need to tell everybody that I wasn't married every time I come to visit. And in response, at an engagement party, she said to my whole family in Akan, which is their language, that she hoped next time there was an engagement party, it would be for me. And then turns to me and repeats it in English to make absolutely sure that I was embarrassed in 2 languages. So, like, that's the kind of taking a note that is typical of Africans. But in any case, it did exactly what it needed to do. It felt homey, felt comfortable. And then naturally I started wondering, Canada got it right, England got it right, Africa, multiple countries got it right. Why don't we have a successful American version? I looked it up. It's for the exact reasons you would expect. Repeated incidents of sexual harassment and sexual assault. So the first time they tried to make it in America, the male British judge, and there's only one, so you know exactly who I'm talking about, cheated on his wife with an American judge. Fun fact, when they do the American one, they film it in England. That's why. The second time they tried to do it, the American male judge got dismissed because he had been harassing women in his restaurants. So it's not meant for us. We don't get it. Everybody else does. But something really interesting happened as I did all of this Wikipedia researching. Like, the further and further I got into the rabbit hole, the more and more comfortable I felt, because men were facing consequences. And, like, that doesn't normally happen. And I'll tell you something, that's calming. So let that roll you to sleep. That was what did it. We did it, everybody. We got what we needed to get. That's my time. Thanks, everybody.
That was great. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So funny.